Ever dealt with that one nagging foot pain that just will not go away? The kind of pain that even has doctors scratching their heads? Well, today we're going to put on our detective hats and solve a really common but often missed medical mystery, especially one that pops up in younger people: the case of the painful foot.
You know, the foot is this incredibly complex machine, and just like any good mystery, the answer to our case is hidden right inside its intricate structure, often in a place you'd least expect. The clues are right there, hiding in plain sight on an x-ray. You just have to know what you're looking for.
This is the question, isn't it? It's the whole reason so many people end up in a doctor's office. It sounds so simple, but the answer can be unbelievably complicated, sending you down this rabbit hole of different tests and, frankly, wrong diagnoses. So in this explainer, we're going to get to the bottom of it. Now, what's wild about this list is just how nonspecific these symptoms are. I mean, a stiff, flat foot, pain when you walk on bumpy ground, a tendency to sprain your ankle, that could be a dozen different things. That nagging ache in the sinus tarsi, that's kind of the soft, hollow spot on the outside of your ankle, and those weird muscle spasms, doctors have a fancy term for it: peroneal spastic flat foot, which just means your foot muscles are freaking out and tensing up on their own. It's all these vague clues that make this condition so frustrating for everyone involved. Okay, so let's unmask our main suspect, Tarsal coalition. The easiest way to think about it is like an illegal bridge. See, when we're developing, the bones in our feet start out as cartilage, and then they're supposed to separate into individual bones. With a tarsal coalition, that separation just doesn't finish. Instead, you get a bridge made of bone, cartilage, or even fibrous tissue that locks two bones together that are absolutely supposed to be moving on their own. And this slide just says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the blueprint of a normal foot, all those nice, clean, separate bones. But then look at the other side. That's a 3D CT scan. You see that solid chunk connecting those two big bones in the back of the foot? That's the coalition. It's a literal roadblock that completely messes up how your foot is supposed to work, how it absorbs shock, and that's exactly where all the pain comes from. So while these bridges can technically form between a few different bones, our investigation almost always boils down to two main culprits. First, the talocalcaneal coalition, or TC. That's a bridge between your ankle bone, the talus, and your heel bone, the calcaneus. The other big one is the calcaneonavicular coalition, or CN, which connects that heel bone to the navicular bone in the arch of your foot. You can see from the numbers, these two make up pretty much the whole shebang, over 90% of all cases. All right, so we've got our suspect, we know where they operate. So how do we prove it? This is where the real forensic work begins, with doctors using imaging to hunt for those definitive clues. The first classic clue, something you can spot on a regular old x-ray, is called the C sign. Look here. In a normal foot, the outlines of those two bones, the talus and calcaneus, are separate. But when you have this kind of coalition, their borders just merge, creating this perfect, continuous C shape. It is a dead giveaway that something is not right between the ankle and the heel. Okay, this next clue is even better. You're not going to forget this one. For that other type of coalition, the calcaneonavicular one, doctors look for the anteater sign. And you can totally see it, right? The front of that heel bone gets all long and stretched out, looking just like an anteater snout, reaching for the next bone. It's a fantastic telltale sign that those two bones are connected when they shouldn't be. And finally, we have a secondary clue, the tala beak. Now, this isn't the coalition itself, it's a consequence of it. Because the back of the foot is so stiff, it puts all this weird stress on the other joints, especially the talonavicular joint. Over time, that stress can cause a bony spur to grow on top of the talus bone, just like a little beak. It's basically the foot's alarm bell, telling us that the mechanics are all wrong. But here's the twist in our case. These classic signs are great for spotting bony bridges. But what happens if the bridge isn't made of bone at all? What if it's made of cartilage or fibrous tissue? Well, an x-ray might miss that completely, and the mystery stays unsolved. And this brings us to the great imaging showdown. For years, the CT scan was the gold standard. It gives you incredible detail of the bone, which is great for planning surgery. But it involves radiation, and it can still miss those tricky non-bony coalitions. Enter the new challenger, the MRI. It uses zero radiation, and its superpower is that it can see everything: bone, cartilage, fibrous tissue, and it can even see swelling inside the bone, which is a huge clue that the area is under stress. So which one really solves the case? Well, a big study pretty much delivered the knockout punch.
Just look at this number, 95.8%. That is MRI's cumulative sensitivity for finding tarsal coalition. To put it simply, it gets it right in pretty much every single case. It's amazing.
So yeah, the verdict is in. With near perfect accuracy, the ability to see every single type of coalition, plus the fact that it can spot other related problems like bone stress, all without any radiation, MRI has absolutely become the new star detective for these complex cases. So, cracking the case is a massive step, but it's not the end of the story. Once you know what's wrong, the big question is, what are we going to do about it? This is where the investigation pivots into a plan of action. And it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. It follows a pretty clear logic. First, you figure out the type. Is it TC or CN? For those TC coalitions, the real key is the size. If that illegal bridge covers more than 50% of the joint, or if there's already a lot of arthritis, just removing the bridge won't be enough. The best path is often what's called an arthrosis, a procedure to fuse the joint on purpose, making it stable and getting rid of the painful motion. But if the coalition is smaller and the joint looks pretty healthy otherwise, then the standard approach is to go in and surgically remove that bridge. Now, I want to pause on this quote for a second because it's so important for managing expectations. It really gets to the heart of the matter. The goal of the surgery isn't to create some kind of perfect brand new foot. I mean, think about it. That joint has never developed or moved correctly. So the realistic goal here is to get rid of the pain and make the foot work better, not to magically achieve a level of function that was never there to begin with. And for all the people who are good candidates for resection, that's removing the bridge, this is where things get really exciting. Surgeons are now using these modern, minimally invasive techniques that offer brand new hope for a much better recovery. So just how effective is this new approach? Okay, let's look at the evidence. A huge systematic review, which is like a study of studies, crunched the numbers on this minimally invasive surgery. They pulled together the data for a total of 42 patients. And the results were, well, they were stunning. After following these patients for over 2 years on average, the recurrence rate, that's the chance of that bony bridge growing back, was 0.0%. I mean, come on, that is an absolute game changer. And what about complications? Incredibly low at just 4.8%. So what this tells us is a really powerful story. We have a procedure that is not only super effective at fixing the problem, but it's also proven to be very, very safe. And just so you know, this wasn't some random small study. Look at this chart. The researchers started with a giant pool of over 400 potential studies. Then they carefully filtered them, getting rid of duplicates and ones that didn't meet their really high standards, until they were left with just the 6 best of the best reports. That's why those numbers we just saw are so powerful and trustworthy. So let's wrap this case file up. Tarsal coalition is this hidden but really common culprit behind foot pain. Those classic X-ray clues like the C sign and the anteater sign are great starting points, but it's modern MRI that's the master detective that really solves the case. The treatment isn't a one-shot deal. It's carefully tailored to the coalition's size and location. And for a lot of people, minimally invasive surgery offers a fantastic and safe solution. And that leaves us with one last big thought. The whole story of tarsal coalition is a perfect example of how technology, from superpowered MRIs to tiny arthroscopic surgical tools, is just completely changing medicine. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other chronic mystery pains are just one technological leap away from finally being solved?